This is Worldview on WBEZ. I'm Jerome McDonnell. A plan to expand Ethiopia's capital of Addis Ababa is drawing protests. The government has reacted to the protests with violence, and the government says that 11 people are dead. The opposition party says that 17 people are dead. Witnesses say many more than 17 people are dead. The government's plan to expand the capital would displace poor farmers from the country's largest ethnic group, the Oromo. The Oromo in the diaspora are having protests in multiple cities tomorrow. And with me now is Dr. Ahmed Badasso, and he is the current president for the Oromo Community Association in Chicago. And, I'm sorry, I got the wrong name here. And with me is
Kadiro
Elemo, and he is the author of The United States and Ethiopia, The Tragedy of Human Rights. And also with me is Seenaa, Jimjimo, and she's an advisor to the Oromo Community Association of Chicago. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Could you give us a little background? I think most people don't know what these protests are about. And the protests in Ethiopia have been at several universities. They've been big. And this issue of the growth of Addis Ababa is one that's long-running.
Correct.
Kadiro?
Yeah. Which one you want me to give you first? I mean, the expansion of Addis Ababa is...
Tell me about that.
Yeah, basically this is a protest over the expansion of Addis Ababa, but there are so many factors that amplified the protest. One of the issues we have is an issue of land grab. There is this growing need for territories within Oromia whereby land is given for investors from within and from outsiders, from the Chinese, from the Arabian, and from India. And according to the information we have, the land grab is so pervasive, that so large that the land the size of UK, Great Britain, was given to outsiders. And the other factor now which explains this protest is the expansion of Addis Ababa, as you said. And Addis Ababa was formed in 1886 by Emperor Menelik when he defeated the Oromos. And if we speak about the location of Addis Ababa, it is within the center of Oromia and also within the center of Ethiopian Empire. So by this means it is also the capital city of the Oromia state, one of the biggest 9 states in the country. At the same time, it is a federal seat. It's a capital city of the country. So when Addis Ababa was formed in 1886, the name of the city was changed from Finfinne, that was an indigenous name, and then like 100% of the population of that village was Oromos, none other but except ethnic Oromos. And then the demographic composition of the city was totally transformed. And what happened after the conquest was a total disruption of social fabric, annihilation, conquest, and destructions, and the Oromos were reduced into half in a couple of decades into 25%. Today, the Oromo population are less than 20% of the population of the city of 4 million.
It sounds like a long-running dispute.
Yes.
And I know there's Oromo dissident groups, there's Oromo rebel groups, and the government comes out and says, well, the rebel groups are stoking these protests up. They're the ones who are behind this. Is that kind of thing going on? Is that what the government says?
The government want to make it look like that, but the reality is what's going on. The government in mid-April came with this integrated master plan of the expansion of Addis Ababa. Basically, it expanded the city of Addis Ababa by 20 times, expanded to 1.1 million hectares, and literally taking over about 36 municipalities or counties, bringing them under the city of Addis Ababa governing system. Currently, the city of Addis Ababa have unique government system, even though it's part of the Oromia region, it's in the center of Oromia, but it's kind of a federal city that gives them permission, a different kind of governing system. They have a different police. So what happened in mid-April, the government announced this implementation of this master plan, the expansion of Addis Ababa. And if you look around the city and the villages around Addis Ababa is Oromo landowners, Oromo farmers. Mm-hmm. So this will literally displaced millions of Oromo farmers, very, very poor, and the student protesting against that.
And I mean, when normal city expansions happen here in Chicago, the people who are getting displaced, they get their house bought out, and they get an okay deal. That won't happen.
Here is what is going on. I mean, in the first place, Addis Ababa is the city where Oromos are very much minoritized. The Oromo language has disappeared, and Addis Ababa was expanding since its formation in 1886. And what is going on is there was no attempt to integrate the indigenous people into the fabric of the city. The city is, destroying every aspect of the Oromo culture, displacing all the Oromo factors. They are just removing them. In that sense, they're just going away from one of the best schools, one of the best public transportation, one of the best public facilities given to these people by the government. So, there is no way that these people could benefit from this system, from the growth of Addis Ababa. And in addition to this, the compensation given for this expansion is not sufficient. It's not, proportional with the amount of the ordeals people are going through. So there is no mechanism of checking this expansion and mechanism of making that they are going to get a fair compensation from this displacement. It's in a way very much different from gentrification we know here in Chicago in Western countries. It's mass dislocation. This happened in 50s and 60s when people in thousands migrated to southern part of Oromia, into RC, into Bale, Hararge. These are the east, the south, the western part of the country, because the system was very much works against the indigenous people, and this is something we should need to understand. The city is growing from 54,000 hectares of land to 1.2 million. And these all rural places where the city is expanding into are the Oromo areas. And the Oromos, as the constitution guarantees, they're supposed to get education in the language, they're supposed to promote the culture, they're supposed to have a control over natural resources, they're supposed to have a control over the security. But these things are not ensured within this coordinated Addis Ababa expansion plan. And we don't know how it is going to ensure and protect the interests of the indigenous people. And there is no, in a way, the process of consultation, dialogue with the Oromo people, and the Oromos are protesting against this kind of political marginalization and eviction from their historical land, which they feel like part of their identity, part of the culture, and part of their self.
Kadiro Elemo is the author of The United States and Ethiopia, The Tragedy of Human Rights, and Seenaa Jimjimo is an advisor to the Oromo Community Association of Chicago, and we're talking about the plan in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, that's drawing protests. A number of people have been killed, dozens have been killed inside of Ethiopia, and folks outside are going to have a worldwide day of protests tomorrow. Tell me about the protests that are going on here and elsewhere, Seenaa.
Yes. Just want to catch up with what Kadiro said. What you said first earlier was the expansion of in any city. When the city grow, eventually, the city or the landowners, they kind of negotiate and they got bought out. But what happened in Ethiopia and Addis is the landowners, when they are bought out, they are culturally transformed to this Ethiopianization, which means that from Oromo region, they will transform to under the Addis Ababa, which is they have different language, different system. So currently, they are being taught in Oromo region by Oromo school system. But when they transform to Ethiopia, under Addis Ababa governance, that will change. They have to learn the Ethiopian, the Hamara language, which literally... which we are very against it, because we are Oromo, we want to learn in our language, and from there on, in Addis Ababa, people do not learn Oromo language. Oromo language are not taught in Addis Ababa. There is no such a thing to incorporate Oromo people and to welcome that. To go back to your question, as the rally that is taking place is in downtown Chicago, we're starting from 230 South Dearborn. The reason we picked there is our senator, U.S. Senator Dick Durbin office. We are trying to get a letter statement from the senator, if it's possible, to let us know he's down with human rights. He's against the brutality of the Ethiopian government. We want to know his statement from his office that this is the issue that we're facing. The BBC have reported, Al Jazeera have reported What does our senators say? What does our elected officials say for this issue that is taking place in Ethiopia? And we'll also walk to the mayor office, also grab a letter and probably a few words from the mayor office, and we'll finally end up at the ABC Center to kind of hopefully get some media attention. Our main thing is what we want is about three things from this rally. Number one, we want to protest with the solidarity of students that are protesting, getting killed in Ethiopia, in Oromia region. Number two is we want to reach out to the elected officials. We want the elected officials to know, to call Congress, to let the Ethiopian government know. People in their cities, in their municipality are concerned about the issue that's going in Ethiopia, about the killing. And the final thing we want to do is get attention from the media. Because when the media have an attention, people will know about it, can ask questions about it. Mm-hmm. That's the main three things we want.
And there's protests that are going on in London, in Washington, where there's a big diaspora population. Lots of other cities are doing it at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, the rallies are all over the planet. I mean, we have a list of some 30 cities where people of ethnic Oromos and non-Oromos, everybody who has a concern about the human rights issues, about democratic rights issues, people will be gathering in Chicago, in Minnesota, Washington, D.C., Seattle, London, South Africa, Egypt, Australia, Melbourne. I mean, all the cities where there is a sizable Oromo population and people who are interested about the cause of human rights. And this is, we should underline that this is not an Oromo issue. It's a very much a human rights issue. It's a very much a democratic right issue. A peaceful student of elementary, junior, high schools and college protesting the government, and the government responding with a violence. An issue which touches everyone. It's an issue of humanity in the 21st century, where the government brutally suppresses people who simply protested against its decision. So in a way, we are just, trying to give attention to the Oromo issues, which is very much marginalized by the international media. And Ethiopia is a very close country. Information flow from that country is very much controlled. There is no Western press is operating in that country, and the only blooming journalists who try to reach to the Oromo demonstrators in Ambo, where one of the biggest atrocity happened, was arrested so that he could not report what happened in Ambo. And some of the bloggers, the finest bloggers in the country, were just arrested for blogging, for talking about human rights issues. And the government said they're communicating with the terrorist organizations and stuff like that. And the so-called terrorist organizations are not, Al-Qaeda or Al-Shabaab, but the Western human rights groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. And so there is a very little room for the flow of information from that countries, and all the service providers like the internet, the telephone, all are monopolized by the government, and there is no way that the Oromo voices can be heard in that country. And we are trying to amplify the Oromo voices, because for the Oromos, they don't have ambassadors. The Oromos, they don't have strong international media attention. We are trying to bring into the spotlight the Oromo issues in a way that the Oromos can speak for the Oromos outside, in a way that this is a human rights issue which the rest of the world need to understand, especially Americans. The taxpayers have a lot of control over the government, and they need to understand this one. And the question the Oromos are asking is not different from the question that the Americans asked 250 years ago. No taxation without representation. We are asking for representation and to end this political marginalization which became a part of the culture of that country.
Kadiro Elemo is the author of The United States and Ethiopia, The Tragedy of Human Rights, and Seenaa Jimjimo is an advisor to the Oromo Community Association of Chicago. And thank you both for joining us, talking about the protests that have been happening in Addis Ababa over the government expansion of the capital and displacement of people, and the worldwide protests that are going to go on tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.